Welcome, everybody. We're absolutely thrilled that you're here. We think we have a fantastic set of panelists for you to really unearth what they're thinking, what they're going through in their daily work lives, and how we can learn from that. I want you to know, since the day that we started this, I really set as a mandate for our team to add value to you in the audience. And so everything we're doing here today is centered on one thing, and that's providing value. And what I mean by value is that we're sales and marketing professionals in the investment management business, our team. And it's sometimes hard to really get behind the eyes, if you will, and into the mind of the buyer and how they're thinking, and how, in particular, how they're thinking about you. And how, you never walk out of a meeting and they say, hey, I'm going to grade you on how you did in your presentation, right? We go back to our office, we follow up, we do our thing. We never really hear what's going on from them. And you have to be very explicit to ask questions. And so today, the whole goal of the value is, what are these leading allocators thinking about? And what are they thinking about us? What are the do's and don'ts? How can we improve? How are they allocating capital specifically? What potential strategies? And then really coming back to us is how do we get better at what we do? And so that's the theme, if you will, of the conference. A couple thank yous. You don't really appreciate how hard one of these things are, especially when someone like me says 2.5 months ago to Tracy and the team, we're going to do a conference in Chicago before Morningstar. And I said, and then about a week into it, nothing was happening, and I was like, we have so much going on, let's just bag it. And then Chris O'Grady shows up one day, and he's like just a man on a mission to invite people. And so I think all of you had some level of contact with Chris at some point of filling the room. So we're thrilled that you're here. I'd like to acknowledge Tracy Rogers, who's been with us since '07, and Lucy Sorgente and Manjinder Kaur, who really have carried the ball, if you will, to make this happen. And the rest of our team, I'd like to thank Chris O'Grady and Sam Henderson, his right-hand man, who is really kind of helping Chris manage the day-to-day. But a huge acknowledgement for our team. We're here at 6 a.m. this morning, kind of get everything set up. So thank you guys for everything. Really appreciate it. So why are we here, and why did we want to do this? Well, we work with a numerous amount of great investment firms, but there's massive headwinds in our industry. Passive is, I think, a bigger force than maybe we even recognize at the most obvious level. And we spend a lot of time calling on RAs and such. When I think of passive investing, to all these active managers in the audience, including ourselves, how do you compete? And one of the biggest issues of passive investing is its simplicity, right? Not only is it easy to invest in, not only does it perform, right, which has done a pretty unbelievable job at that, whether we believe in the construct of the indices or not, it's actually for the allocator, right? There's very little due diligence having to be done on the front end, right? Active management, right? It's a massive amount of time and energy put into doing due diligence. And then quarterly updating. No one ever recognizes that a lot of times people just go into passive because it's such an issue at quarter end, right? Passive is pretty easy to report on. Talking to the allocators, look at them at quarter end. They're having to call every manager or do it themselves for their tight little quarterly summaries, to put that in a Word doc, send it to the clients, right? Now, there might be shades of gray, but that's basically what they do. It's an administrative nightmare, right? So you've got passive is a very big deal. We'll talk about that. Second is you have the massive growth of the RA channel, right? It's mind-numbing how rapidly it's growing. I didn't think we could find on a weekly basis this many, like this new $900 million RA in Seattle, right? Just falling out of all the wirehouses, Goldman Sachs, the banks, and starting their own firms. And so that's a huge disruption in the fundraising business, is you now are, I call it de-Amazoning, right? You're just spreading 50 Amazons instead of one, right? It's kind of a nightmare, and it keeps just growing and growing and growing. So that's very disruptive. It's going to get back to the theme of the future of due diligence. My theme is make it easier to buy. You also have the wirehouses that were traditionally a place where active managers could really get a start. It's becoming much more binary now, right? With so much being moved up into the home office model, select list, it's really becoming challenging because it's either you win or you don't. There's not a lot of winners. Now, I'm not saying it's exclusively, but that is definitely the trend. And then the last, I think, massive issue that we have to deal with, and it's panel number 4 today, is the millennial generation, right? The millennial generation has much different buying behaviors than Gen Xers like myself and my parents, baby boomers, and a lot of you in the audience, right? Their whole Google, the internet has changed everything, right? And we're going to talk a lot about, with the millennial panel, what their work lives are like in dealing with the Xers and the boomers versus their lives in their personal life, right? And it really is different, and they buy differently. They have much different buying behaviors. And then we're going to close with a dear friend of mine, Dave Sowerby, a frequent commentator on CNBC, is going to give a few comments because he's sat on pension boards his whole life. He's been pitched by managers left and right. He also works for a money manager in Cleveland, Ancora, micros, small and SMID. And then he's going to interview Ted Seides, one of the most knowledgeable people in the industry, whether it's the investment management industry, having started working for David Swensen at Yale, then founding Protege Partners, and now having his own consulting firm today. And the Capital Allocators podcast is his baby, and he's the host, and I think most of us in the room have at least listened to a couple of episodes. And so it should be very exciting. So with that, this wouldn't be possible without the generosity of our sponsors. I'm going to go through them quickly. I'll spend a minute on Good Data. Good Data's back in the corner. We formed a partnership with them on our digital content platform called the Dakota Network, where effectively they are the leaders in embedded analytics at the level of where people are engaging with your content. So most people believe that data truly is the new oil, if you will. And I'm not talking about Facebook and privacy and all that. I'm talking about much more anonymously engaging with your content on your website, your PDFs, everything. How are people engaging? Where are they spending time? What are they looking at? Are they going all the way through a document? Are they not? Good Data is on the cutting edge and the leaders in that aspect. So I encourage everybody, gooddata.com. They're back in the right-hand corner. They have 8 of the top 10 global brands as clients. They have over 70,000 businesses that use their platform today, over 1 million customers. Working with them has been a complete dream. We've outsourced our data analytics to them. They are extraordinarily responsive. So I encourage anybody who has a question about data analytics during the breaks to go back and speak with them. Thank you to our money manager sponsors. So Causeway, dear friends, Jerry McDonald, Paula Grady, Shankman, thank you very much. Blue Arc, Ron Zukowski, as well as, of course, Weiss, George Weiss and Associates, a client of ours, multi-strat hedge fund. I'd like to thank QNY for sponsoring with the Little Espresso. They've built our Dakota Funds website as well as Marmont Partners. They're a spectacular branding firm in New York City, as well as thank Ultimus Fund Solutions, who is a spectacular series trust provider. So I encourage you, if you're thinking about launching a mutual fund, you definitely should have a conversation with Kevin Garrett. And with that, I think I covered everything. I'd like to turn it over to Chris O'Grady.